Welcome to Pleasure Central Radio, the place to rethink the assumptions we don't even realize we are making that keep us from getting what we truly want out of work, life, and love. Here is your sneak peek into an authentic, pleasure-focused conversation. Hey there. Today's episode is about art, creativity, and rewriting old patterns. In the last year, I have found myself relying on old strategies that I had forgotten about, old patterns of behavior that worked for me once upon a time. They kept me safe for one reason or another, but they were never very good at making me happy. This year, I've been researching and figuring out how to count coup on these strategies, basically how to turn these old patterns that don't serve me anymore on their head and replace them with new ones. I'm going to share 4 of these patterns with you here, and then I'm going to invite you to come and participate with me in one of them. And maybe you'll be inspired to help create some art together now. One of those old patterns is lashing out with my words. You know, it's bizarre to watch yourself hurting someone that you love and knowing what you're doing and feeling like it's justified and that you shouldn't stop all at the same time. It's confusing. It wastes a lot of energy. And it's just not true. I have deeply hurt people this year, and I know it's not just me. I've heard from a number of friends and clients who've been snapping at their partners, at their kids, at their coworkers. Fuses are short, patience is thin, and words can become like swords when we are too mature to physically hurt someone, but not so mature that we can transcend our own bullshit yet. I hope that you have escaped this. This is a really confusing pattern because it feels like I'm right. It feels like everyone should be changing their behavior because I say so. Because I'm right, right? But I've heard many times from some of my mentors and teachers, I think this is from Abraham Hicks, but I could be wrong. You can be right or you can be happy. I'd rather be happy. Right feels like the right answer, but honestly, I'd rather be happy. I've noticed that when I fall into this pattern, sooner or later, I end up seeing that my words are not actually helping, no matter how important the point that I'm trying to make seems to be. But sometimes it's much, much later than I would like it to be. The sooner the better. One of the things that's helped me with this pattern is realizing that all of my complaints have gold inside them somewhere. Complaints always come with a gift if you're willing to open up the package and look inside. It's not easy to do, but when we can open up the gift and accept it, then suddenly we're free from that complaint forevermore. At least that's what I've noticed. For instance, the complaint of, you never call me anymore. You never bring me flowers anymore. The gift in that complaint is really attention. It's attention and focus and connection. It's not about the flowers or the texting or the calling. It's about the connection. The second thing, and this is also related to the complaints, is that I don't think anyone ends up in this pattern without having lost their own meaning and purpose and drive in life first. Because when my purpose is clear, I couldn't give a shit how out of alignment you are. I mean, I will call you out on your misalignment of energy, but it won't trigger me. It won't cause me to spiral into my own doubt. I won't spend hours obsessing over how to twist the knife in deeper because, well, they deserve it. I've also found that humor is really helpful here. Humor is a great way for me of breaking this pattern. I think because a big part of humor is timing and insight. And when you can get the timing and the insight right on the right subject, it can shine a light on a situation in a way that changes the way we see it and changes the way we relate to it and to ourselves and to everybody in that situation. Daniel Sloss has a stand-up show on Netflix called Dark, which is both hilarious and talks about how he uses humor in dark situations. He makes a really good point that joking about terrible things is one of the ways that we can reclaim our power. And it's a valid way of dealing with it. Sloss also has some jokes, I think they're fairly recently, about falling in love and how falling in love, if it's true love, it is so inconvenient, so fucking inconvenient. And how, like, that's how you know it's true love. I think in some ways, this is a little bit of a 27-year-old talking about love. And I also think he's got some really good points. I think true love, the kind of love where you really care about the other person and you want the best for them and you care enough to go and do something about it and make something happen, that fucks up your life. Whatever life plans you might have had are changed. I know I don't have kids, but I hear my friends and partners and siblings talking about how kids completely change your priorities. And I think it's because of that. I think it's because of that true love and knowing, oh my gosh, I would do anything for this person. Now all of a sudden my priorities are completely different. But I think the other thing that is true is that true love is an infinite energy source. And it's so worth it. By the way, if you're curious about using some humor to help reset yourself or find new insights into new directions, there's actually a lot of good comedy right now out there. I have been listening on Audible. There's a series called Punchlines. Yeah, it's pretty neat. I think episode 10 was my favorite one recently. And Tiffany Haddish on Netflix has a series called They Ready. And I don't really love her style of comedy, to be honest. The second season of They Ready came out, and I liked almost all of the comedians on the second season. They're all short 20 or 30-minute clips, I think. Maybe they're hour-long clips. I can't remember. But I remember being tickled and intrigued and finding a lot of insight and clarity and hilarity among it. All right, another one of the patterns that I've identified for myself is this pattern of loneliness. And I've been calling it the Eeyore vibe because it ends up feeling like, I'm alone. I don't feel like I have many people around. I'm just not very energized and excited to do very much. And this is the kind of pattern that just snowballs on itself. Aloneness and loneliness breeds more aloneness and loneliness. I find that creativity is a good way of getting me out of this. And that can also feed in on itself too. If I'm creative by myself, then I'm creative until I'm done being creative, and then I'm alone again. So I have to keep creating something, and it can feel a little bit manic. So I found that creating stuff with other people actually is even cooler than creating on my own. And sometimes just observing other people creating or other people sharing is enough to get me out of this as well. And I found this out recently because there's a new app. You may have heard of it. It's called Clubhouse. It's on iPhone only right now, and it's invite only as well. So depending on who you are listening to this, you may not be able to get access to Clubhouse. If you do, and if you're interested, there is a club in Clubhouse called the Lullaby Club. I stumbled across it, and wow, it is so, so cool. I also have heard from friends that there's some poetry reading clubs in there where you just read poetry to each other. Really neat. Anyway, basically, Clubhouse is an audio social platform. So there's no texting at all. You create private rooms or public rooms that people can come in and out of. The people that are able to speak in the room, quote unquote speak, are panelists or guests or moderators. People that are just listeners in the room can ask to speak, so they can ask questions, they can give their input. It's a really interesting platform. However, the Lullaby Club is a bit of a departure from all of that. The Lullaby Club uses the Clubhouse format and creates a Clubhouse room, but it's all singers and songwriters. And these singers and songwriters are every night from 9 to 11-ish p.m. Pacific Standard Time are singing live music one at a time, and they're doing it lullaby style. So I think the original idea of the Lullaby Club was a club for people to come to as they're trying to fall asleep, to help them get to sleep. And so the motto in the club, the rule in the club, is that everyone whispers. So if you're going to talk in the Lullaby Club, you have to talk like there's a baby in the room and you don't want to wake the baby. And they take turns singing lullaby versions of popular songs and of their own songs. So basically, for 2 hours a night, you can listen to live musicians, to live music playing every night. It's so cool. I just gotta say, it's like this beautiful serotonin boost. And I found for myself in the last couple of months, I have been working on some health stuff, and going to bed earlier and being off of my screens after sunset is something that my health consultants are really wanting to push me into doing. So when I discovered the Lullaby Club, that got so much easier because I can turn the Lullaby Club on my phone, set my phone to red screen so there's no blue light coming out of it, and just sit there and listen and enjoy myself. And I'm being social, I'm connecting with people. I don't feel alone, even though I am alone. I often will sit there and color while I'm listening to the Lullaby Club, which for some reason is very soothing and delightful. And yeah, I don't know. I think part of what makes it so lovely is that these singers and songwriters, many of them have been shut in for a year, not had live audiences to play in front of, have not had that feeding of the theater vibe, at least as much as they used to. And here is an outlet where they get to sing and play and perform live in front of other people and get feedback from people, whispered, of course. And there's something about the whispering which just makes it even softer and juicier and amps up the serotonin levels even higher. Now, I said serotonin levels, and I don't know the science behind that, but I will say that's how I feel. I feel very calm and very connected to my body. So if you are on an iPhone, I highly recommend checking out Clubhouse and the Lullaby Club. Axel Mansoor started the Lullaby Club. I love his voice. He's got a very cool sort of John Mayer-ish style. And yeah, I love it. Maybe I'll see you in there some night. There's another band that I ran across recently, which has also inspired me with my creativity. It's a band called OK Go. I was first introduced to them through one of their music videos. It's a super cool music video. The song that the video is recorded for is called Upside Down and Inside Out. What I love about this music video is that it is recorded in zero gravity part of the time. And they have a couple of videos where they talk about the behind the scenes of how they did it. It's amazing. So the way they did this video, and I highly recommend you take 6 minutes and check it out. Because first of all, it's a catchy song, pretty interesting. But the video watching it is really cool because I think you see 6 times where there's most of the time in the video, it looks like they're floating around in no gravity. There's things flying all over. They're doing flips and turns and twists and somersaults. It's pretty cool. And then 6 different times during the song, the video all of a sudden kind of collapses. It's like gravity gets turned back on. Now, if you watch the behind the scenes, you'll figure out why that happens. It's because gravity actually is getting turned back on. But they recorded this entire thing in a plane that's nicknamed the Vomit Comet, actually, because it's used to train astronauts in zero gravity, and fascinating stuff. Anyway, so I found OKGo and was browsing around on YouTube, and then I found another one of their videos, which is so cool. It's called #ArtTogetherNow. So this band wrote and performed a song together over video conference during the pandemic, during the lockdown. And it is a really cool concept. And they decided to invite their fans to participate in the next version of the song. So I put a link in the show notes to this invitation video and to the Upside Down and Inside Out. And at the end of this episode, I'm going to invite you to create some art with me on my podcast. So in this video, #ArtTogetherNow, Damien, one of the band members, invites all of their fans to participate in recreating the song and creating some kind of art together from a distance. And said, hey, record your piece of the song, send it in, and we will stitch them all together, and we will have a video of all of us in our own places creating art. All together now. Art together now. Another pattern that I found, and this is a sneaky one, this is a pattern of shame. I think there are so many things that we're conditioned to be ashamed about, but very few of them are actually valid. I did a bunch of research on shame specifically, and I found that guilt and shame often get convoluted. Guilt is about something that you have done, and shame is about who you think you are at your core as a person. If you've done something wrong, you may feel guilty about it. But if you feel shame, it's because you believe you are wrong. For example, slut shaming. Slut shaming is basically saying you're wrong for sleeping with a bunch of people. That's, I don't know, sleep with as many people as you want to, as long as it's fun and you're enjoying yourself and you have consent, be all ethical. I really encourage that. If you're not being ethical about your sluttiness, then okay. There's reason for guilt, but I don't think there's really reason for shame. But the thing about shame is it can only live in the dark. When we shed light on the things we are ashamed of, when we own them and we bring them out of the closet, the shame dissolves. I learned years ago that anything we hide brings us pain. I think I learned this most poignantly when I was 17, 18 years old. I was with my boyfriend at the time, and we had been together for a year and a half. We were very in love. We were very accepting of each other. And up until that point, there had been something I had been carrying, something heavy, that I thought, no one should ever know about this. No one ever is going to know about this. But we had gotten to this place of intimacy and connection and acceptance that one day we were laying in bed together, and I don't remember how the subject came up, but we started sharing our deepest, darkest secrets. And the deepest, darkest secret that I was sure I was never going to tell anybody, once I said it and I got his reaction, And then I started to think about it logically. It made no sense. Like, why was I so afraid of it? So what had happened is that I had a sexual experience with another girl when I was in my early teens. And it wasn't super sexual because, we were early teens and lived in a small town, pre-internet, didn't really know what we were doing, but it was definitely sexual. And for some reason, that was something that I thought I had to hide, that I needed to pretend didn't happen. And when I told my boyfriend at the time, he looked at me so surprised and was like, "Oh my God, that's so hot." And looking back at it now as an adult, of course, it's really hot. That makes total sense. But the only way I could figure that out myself was to speak it, to share it with someone that I could trust, but to share it, to bring it out into the light. And that's how I learned anything that I hide brings me pain. Which is also one of the reasons why I live the way that I do, why I am ethically non-monogamous, why I am polyamorous, why I live as a courtesan, and I talk about that with people. I talk about pleasure with people that I've just barely met. And I think that's pretty cool. Pretty good, I think, about not overstepping their boundaries and shoving stuff into their face that they don't want to hear about or know about. And shame. Shame is not good. But really, all we have to do to shame is shine a light on it, and it dissolves. Okay, the fourth pattern that I discovered. This is a really interesting one. For me, this is rage and the rage monster. And when I say rage, I don't mean anger that is really, really awful. I mean the kind of anger that is a reaction to injustice or a perceived injustice. And the way that I play this out in my pattern usually is I start taking shots at whoever I have rage at about their core values and the things that matter most to them. Because, I don't know, it just feels like that's the appropriate way of approaching it until I stop and think about it for a little bit. And then I realize that that doesn't get anyone anywhere. For instance, I really care about integrity. And I can be really sharp and biting with my words when I see someone doing something other than what they say they will do. But damn it, the only times that really triggers me is when I am also doing something out of integrity. And when I say integrity, I don't mean just honesty. I think that's the common definition of integrity is if you're being honest, then you're in integrity. I think that there's more to it. I don't think honesty is the bar. I think of it from an engineering perspective. And if you build a structure and the structure has integrity, it's going to hold together no matter what you throw at it. But if something is out of alignment in that structure, then any little thing could cause it to come crumbling down. And that's what I'm talking about. It's an alignment, like a solidness in their being, a solidness in their confidence and their surety about what they're doing. Yeah, certainty. Solid is integrity. It's not about honesty or about truth so much as it is about alignment with self. I've also been pondering the distinctions between responsibility and accountability. And in the poly world, we often say, you are responsible for your own emotions. In fact, I think that was one of the chapters in The Ethical Slut when I read it back when that was the Poly Bible in the 90s. You are responsible for your own emotions. And I think checking out these words in the dictionary has been really helpful for me. So responsible is the ability to respond to a situation no matter how it happened. So you are responsible for your own emotions means you're the one that has the ability to respond to your emotions and with your emotions, no matter how they get triggered. Accountability is about ownership, about knowing that, maybe I set something in motion that negatively impacted someone else and being willing to own that, and if necessary, to make it right. I'm still figuring this out for myself, honestly. Accountability and responsibility. I think there's a lot of depth there. When I find myself in that space of rage, the thing that is the most beneficial for me is to have someone who is unwilling to let themselves be upset by it and is willing to have compassion and ask questions and get to what is really bothering me. Because when you can find an ally who's willing to help you get what you need and speak what you need, that's magic. That is where the rubber really hits the road. So, given what I've been learning about patterns and flipping them, and recognizing that I have been feeling pretty down lately, I thought, why not reach out to you and see if you would like to create something together? Creativity helps bring me out of that funk, right? That Eeyore mode. So I would love to have your assistance, your creativity in a new small project. So my birthday is April 7th, which is coming up here in a little over a month. And I would love to put something out on my birthday that is a joint creative project. What I'm thinking is anybody who's willing, and I hope you are, can record a very short voice memo. And in the spirit of the things that I've been learning about opening up and not being ashamed, and creating something together, could send me a voicemail and I will stitch them all together and create a podcast episode, or create a piece of a podcast episode that includes this unique, dynamic group piece of art. Here's my proposition. If you're down for this, you can go to the website pleasurecentralradio.com, either on your phone or on your computer. And in the bottom right-hand corner of the website, there is a red button that says, send us a voicemail. Click on that button, record a short, quick little snippet for me, and then send it. So I would love to have a whole bunch of people recording some of the same things so that I can stitch them together and make it sound like there's a whole bunch of us. But I would also really love to hear anything that you want to share. Maybe you want to share one of your bright moments, or maybe you have a comment about an episode that you loved that hit home for you. Either way, I would love to hear it. Here is what I would love to have you record. If you have no other ideas, or if you just want to go with this template, my name is blank, and then put in your name, and this is Pleasure Central Radio. I listen because blank, and fill in the blank. So, my name is Rebecca, and this is Pleasure Central Radio. I listen because I record the episodes and I edit them, so I listen to all of these over and over and over again. I would love to hear why you listen. Why do you listen to this show? Why does it matter to you? I would also love to hear if you share this with anybody. So, here we go. This is my Art Together Now project. Send me your submissions. Send them right away if you can, so that it just gets done. And I want to make sure that I have all of the submissions by April 1st. So you have a little bit less than a month if you're the procrastinating type. And I will probably remind you on the next couple of episodes, but don't count on it because, accountability. I am really excited about this. I hope you take me up on this offer. I hope you engage and are willing to create some art with me. And let's see where we go from here. For now, this is Radiant Rebecca on Pleasure Central Radio, signing off and saying, thanks for listening.
Hey, Pleasure Seeker. Well, that's it for today's conversation. Here at Pleasure Central Radio, we love using conscious communication, science geekery, and copious amounts of true pleasure to improve our partnerships, our money, and our love lives. And we hope you do too. If you loved what you heard here, we'd love a review. You can listen to other episodes of the podcast and read thought-provoking essays or poems written by me, Radiant Rebecca, by checking out the blog on pleasurecentralpodcast.com. Sign up to hear about new episodes immediately at pleasurecentralpodcast.com.